countering my strikes super well on the ground and all that. Spent too much time gooning this camp, so my forearms are a little sore, so we're going to walk that back a little bit. But yeah, still here, still winning.
Why do we goon? Why can't we stop gooning? Have you sat down to think in the psychology behind the act of gooning? In this video, we will go on a deep analysis behind the reason driving us to Oh crap, give me a second. Hello?
You can't make a video about this. There are thousands of videos talking about this.
Wait, you sure?
Yes! Just don't talk about goon psychology.
Oh. Scratch all that. Today, we're diving into the depths of the gaming industry, exploring the unseen side of Steam and shady websites. What is the Goondustry? How has it reached huge numbers within gaming and helped spark one of the biggest debates in the current culture war? And why do players keep buying and engaging with these seemingly boring games? Buckle up, because today we're sticking our toes into Let's talk about gooning, more specifically about games made for an 18+ audience or not safe for work games. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm basically referring to games that contain adult content and in a way are a mix between porn and games. This is a very interesting niche in video games, and honestly a successful one too, especially considering all the blocks and regulations they had to gather an audience or become mainstream in the first place. The fact is that in the past years, the not safe for work games industry has been booming. It doesn't only account for about $830 million of Steam's games revenue in total, but also developers are each time more and more drawn into developing these kind of games. With the number of this type of games doubling from 2022 to 2023 and 2024 finishing with over 1,000 games developed that contain the not safe for work tag category on Steam. I can also mention how the top sellers of this niche reach millions and millions of copies sold, and how in the top 10 best-selling not safe for work games, there is not one game that dropped below the $10 million mark in revenue generated. But the most impressive thing here is the majority of the games developed in this genre were developed by a very small team or even solo developers. They didn't have any big studios or publishers backing them up. Because the reality for the developers that venture into developing this kind of games is that it is borderline impossible to get an investment from a publisher or an investment at all. Not safe for work games begin with all the odds stacked against them. For obvious reasons, these kind of games can't be promoted in traditional media or traditional channels. Word of mouth isn't a reliable source of promotion either, because most of the players that play these kind of games are either ashamed of playing them or they just don't want to share with their community or their friends, mainly because these games are still seen as taboo nowadays. And if on top of this you add that Steam will not promote these kind of games in the storefront unless you untoggle a setting in the settings menu, no one would dare to touch these kind of games with a 10-foot pole. It is not a safe investment, and there is also a lot of morals involved in someone backing up a project like this. But even against all odds, not safe for work games seem to be thriving, and this niche growing. Developers are keen on releasing more and more of these games, and customers happily paying for new releases in this niche. And the rapid growth and success of this niche makes sense, because you see, the not safe for work industry has something very similar to the gambling industry. They hook you on desire. On gambling, the desire is getting that ace to get the blackjack or hitting black on the roulette so you can double your money. But in this kind of games, the desire is the chase and the thrill of getting that juicy cutscene or that image that contains nudity. No one watching this video is dumb. So let's be real here for a moment. The porn industry is huge. So if you mix porn and games or simply gamify porn, this was never bound to fail. And regarding these games, they do exactly what I mentioned. It's a gamification of porn. Most of the times, these not safe for work games don't have enticing gameplay. And the users that play these kind of games know that. The majority of times, these games are either visual novels where it's just clicking scenes and having the illusion of having free choice and creating your own story, or the gameplay is a complete ripoff of another non-sexual game and has some minor modifications or are a bunch of minigames stuck together. Developers and even the players of these games know one thing for certain. The majority of them don't pay to play the game, but rather pay to consume porn in another way. And I don't need to sit here and explain to you guys the dangers of a porn addiction, but something is clear, that the developers and studios publishing these games are taking advantage of something that can become a serious addiction and trying to get sales and numbers from this. But I'm not making this video to shame or blame the developers or the players playing these kind of games, because the reality is that everyone involved in playing or developing these games is, and I hope so for the love of God, mature and old enough to make their own decisions. And it is simply how the market in this economy moves. Just like tobacco, alcohol, or gambling, porn also falls under this same umbrella of these services and products. And as long as it's properly regulated, done legally, and with consenting parties, we can't really blame no one here. These kind of products tend to have an addictive part to them, but if it's properly regulated and they fall under the law, people can consume them with certain regulations like being overage. So what exactly do I want to bring to your attention, or why exactly I'm making this video, what I'm trying to outline here? Well, the first thing is how this market is not that mainstream or doesn't get the spotlight at all, but it exists and it is massive. In fact, the biggest part of this market is not even on Steam. It is mainly found on other websites that specialize in this kind of games. But I'm mainly talking about Steam here because Steam is the biggest retailer of video games in the industry at the moment. But the second thing that I want to bring into your attention and explain to you guys now is how the not safe for work games niche have splashed into other niches in gaming, and it is also part of one of the biggest culture wars in games at the moment. You see, studios are not dumb in this industry. I mentioned how they directly don't want to be involved in backing up these not safe for work games or projects, but they don't want to miss on the chance of selling them too. They are well aware of how much this game sells, and everyone is aware of the common saying, sex sells. So they brought this question: how do I get the players that play not safe for work games into playing my game that is not mainly a not safe for work game? Well, the answer is simple. I just make my character overly sexual. One of the main points in this culture war that I mentioned before is how studios nowadays are making their characters uglier or non-sexual. And there are two points of views in this war. People that don't care at all, and people that think that this is the end of the industry. And some studios took advantage of this and played their cards correctly. They not only got the not safe for work gamers into their games, but also the people that are on the side of the latter of the argument that I just explained to you guys. And games like Stellar Blade or Wuchen Fallen Feather are perfect examples of how a not safe for work game brought a lot of users into their game by simply playing their cards right and making the use of not safe for work elements and adding them into their games. And please don't take these as I'm shitting on these two games or saying that they are bad games. I'm simply using them as an example of how some studios found a loophole in this whole problem of not being able to monetize not safe for work games in traditional media. They found this loophole and used it exactly so these games could get traditional media attention and the promotion. Studios, especially the Eastern ones, have capitalized and doubled down on this method. And you know what? It has paid very well for them at the moment. They do not only get millions of sales, but also passionate backers and fans of their studios. Because people that are on this side of the culture war, the one that I've explained just now, are very passionate about this point of view, and they are gonna be very passionate and loyal to any studio that demonstrates that they have their back or are on their side too. If you guys wanna know my opinion on this, I couldn't give less of a shit about the uglification of characters in gaming nowadays. As long as a game is providing me with a main character that it's lore accurate or makes sense with the environment, and you provide me with good gameplay, I couldn't give less of a shit of who I'm playing with. As one of my good friends once told me, they could have a flying unicorn as a main character for all I care for. As long as the game is good, I will play it. But you know what? I also get it. And I can understand the point that this side of the culture war is making, blaming woke and DEI on destroying this industry and pushing them to make and deliver bad games and products. But I also think that these two arguments, DEI and wokeness in the industry, are mainly used as a scapegoat to just simplify the real problem behind this industry, the corporatization of the gaming industry in general. Thanks to this, is why studios have been making poorer and poorer decisions, and why they have shifted from making decisions based on the best creative decision, but rather went to make the best decision that favored them in the stock market. Meanwhile, they have all the players fighting and screaming amongst themselves, still paying for these games, while they are making more money than ever. Don't believe me? This whole culture war started around 2014 or 2015, back when the world was shifting from a not politically correct narrative to a more politically correct one. And surprise, surprise, it was around this time too that studios began releasing games that seemed to be made under poor management and had poor decisions in the game design process. And guess what? Around these years was when the industry was beginning to boom, bringing a lot of money to the industry as well as new external investors to it. Think about it for a moment. Before these years, people didn't seem to have a problem with politically correctness in games, or they didn't jump to point out every single detail that a game brought. But after 2014 and 2015, people started screaming in social media, pointing out every narrative flaw, every main character, or every single point that could be seen as politically correct, and they hated it. And like I mentioned, at this point was when some big titles also began making some weird decisions. And let's take a look at the present, 2025. The narrative in the world has once more shifted, and we're slowly but surely moving away from politically correctness to a non-politically correctness narrative once again. And what are big studios doing? They're shifting too in their narrative and in their creation process of games. All that I'm trying to outline here is that these big studios make their decisions based on the narrative of the whole world, and basically what will favor them when the markets open in the morning. My biggest gripe with the not safe for work games topic comes from two angles. The first one being how these studios are trying to sell me this spectacular gameplay and game in general, but the main thing I see they focused on their trailers or people talking about is the awesome jiggle physics and how hot the main character is. And my second gripe is how the mob or the people have fallen into this trap that if a game releases today without a hot character, they instantly go and label it as an instant failure or as woke and don't even give it a chance. And as long as they see a conventional pretty character or a huge pair of tits on their screen, these people are gonna go out and say that this game is the savior of the industry and it is contender for Game of the Year. And again, please don't get me wrong, I do feel that the political context and narrative in the world did lead to some studios making some poor decisions in game design and releasing some bad games. But it had nothing to do with a game having a half-naked character on their screen or not. I'm simply pointing out how the narrative surrounding a game is very positive if they see any sexualization of characters in the game, and completely negative if they don't see any. I can give less of a shit if you wanna goon while you game and stare at an ass for your 5-hour long gaming session. I really don't care. As I mentioned in the beginning, I don't have a strong opinion about not safe for work games, and I have nothing against the developers making them or the players playing it. They are simply another niche in gaming, and they are gamers as well as you and me or anyone else watching this video. My problem comes with the people that fall into this bandwagon of saying that a game is shit or woke if they don't have a hot character on the screen, and them not realizing that they are as brainwashed as their studios that they point and blame to be brainwashed too with this wokeification in gaming. They are also brainwashed, but they are brainwashed on the other side of the spectrum, or the other side of this culture war. And if they think that these studios are their friends or developing games for them or are on their side of this culture war, well, they're wrong. They're not different than your EAs, your Ubisofts, or whatever. They are also studios trying to chase big numbers, huge sales, and at the end of the day, they will simply side on whatever narrative is currently favoring them in the world. As a conclusion, I can say that the not safe for work games niche is on the rise. They have a steady growth, and at some point, I don't know if in the near future or in the distant future, I think that they will sit down in the table of the big boys and mainstream games, and they will become something that is not seen as taboo, but rather as other type of games. Points like their sales, the number of players playing it, and passionate backers shows you that this niche does actually have a solid future in this industry. But it is also important to bring some type of regulation to these games so they don't become a problem for the players that play them or an addiction in the worst case scenario. I understand that I didn't go that deep into the arguments or the points of views of this culture war and expanded on what each side is saying. But that was mainly because I just wanted to give a quick and big overview of the not safe for work games industry in general. And I also despise the political narratives in games. Just like I want to promote with this channel, my mind and philosophy in games is 100% listening to your players and trying to make the best, most fun game you can, without involving any politics or ideologies in it. At the end of the day, I just want people creating games because they think they're fun, or because they see it as an art form, or just because they want to bring the best experience to a player or a certain niche of players that they can. So yeah, today we just gave a quick look into this blooming niche inside the gaming industry. I hope that you guys enjoyed the video, and please let me know down in the comments if you agree, disagree, or if I should jump off a bridge because I am so completely wrong about this whole topic at all. So if you enjoyed the video, please drop a like, and you would help me massively with a subscription as well as tuning in when I release videos. I hope you guys liked it, and I'll see you in the next one.